Hello and welcome to Voices for Change. I'm your host, Danita Harris. Voices for Change is a podcast where you will hear diversity of thought, you will hear authentic expression, and also enlightening perspectives on issues that affect our world. Colorism. Have you ever heard of it? The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as prejudice or discrimination, especially within a racial or ethnic group favoring people with lighter skin over those with darker skin. In her book, In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, author Alice Walker defined colorism as the preferential or prejudicial treatment of same-race people based on skin color. And as she once wrote, unless we exercise it, we cannot as a people progress. For colorism, like colonialism, sexism, and racism, impedes us. The light skin versus dark skin issue within the Black community goes way back in history. This intercultural divide that still exists has marked many Black women, men, boys, and girls with low self-esteem, self-hatred, and envy, all based on the tone and the shade of Black they possess. From romantic relationships, employment, family dynamics, and fashion, whether we like it or not, skin color matters. Shades of Black have been used as a tool of comparison, a label of value, and a faulty factor in how one defines their identity. So today on Voices for Change, our topic is throwing shade on colorism. Joining me to discuss this is Victoria L. Davis, an entrepreneur. We have Vicki Hubbard Barnes, minister of music and a phenomenal singer, and Robin C. Hill, speaker, author, licensed therapist, and personal growth teacher with a focus on emotional wellness and soul care. To all of you ladies, I say thank you for joining me today to talk about this very important subject. And Robin, I'm just going to jump in with you. How did this light skin versus dark skin thing come about?
Well, it's rooted in slavery. From the beginning of time, well, beginning of slavery time, there was always a differentiation between the lighter and dark skins. A lot of times, the lighter skin had heritage from the slave masters. Usually, it was the slave masters' children, illegitimate children, and so they got preferential treatment. Also, just the the perception that was given about color, blackness being a bad thing, an evil thing, a demonic thing, and lightness, whiteness being pure. So the closer you were to pure, it became a mentality that that was um, a privilege to have lighter skin. So you were able to work within the house, be the handmaid, not all be out in the field as much as the darker skin. And so we've internalized that divide. Um, and you see that even to this day with the way we treat our children. Sometimes the lighter skin are treated better. Sometimes the lighter skin are treated worse, depending on how we internalize that message.
And I want to go right to Victoria Davis, right at that point, because Victoria Davis, you are obviously, we can see you are what we would call a light-skinned Black woman. What has been your experience with colorism?
And I had to look up what colorism was because I didn't know exactly what it was, but I can recall all through my life people saying to me, like, you think you're better than others, you think you're all that, you're snooty, you're this, you're that. If people would ever take the time to get to know who I am, they would see that I'm none of the above. So I think when it really hurt me the first time is when a relative of mine said to me, who really never took the time to get to know me, and the first time that we really sat down and had a conversation, one of the things she said to me is, you think you're all that. And I wanted to say to her in return, no, you think I'm all that. But because of the person that I am, I couldn't do that. So I was like, what do I need to do to change? I kept wanting to change so people would see me in a different light. And it wasn't about me. And it wasn't until I really looked up everything about colorism, I discovered that it really wasn't about me. It was about what they felt about me because of the texture of my hair and everything else. I've had girls in school, when I was going through elementary school or junior high school, wanting to pull my hair and doing stuff like that. I didn't understand what it was all about. So that's how it affected me. I wanted to change because I wanted to change for them, but I can't change anything about the color of my skin or the texture of my hair.
And now let's flip the coin and talk to Vicky, because Vicky, we can see you are what we would call a dark-skinned Black woman. What has been your experience growing up as a little girl dealing with colorism?
My experience, I actually was jealous of the little girls that were the color of Victoria, rather. Um, I always was looked over. I grew up short hair. Of course, it seemed like that was the norm for all the dark skinned girls in my neighborhood. We had short hair. It was coarse. It was never really pretty. We wore dark colors. And we didn't play with the girls that were lighter skinned and had long, pretty hair. I had one friend, and when she was nice to me, it was surprising because my childhood bully was a light skinned young lady with long, pretty hair. And she didn't like me because I was dark skinned and I dressed nice.
Wow.
I guess she felt as though me being a dark skinned young lady shouldn't, a young girl shouldn't be able to dress nice or look nice. And my mom put much effort into making sure that my self esteem wasn't low. However, she couldn't pull me away from school and the kids in the neighborhood. So I dealt with it on so many levels. I never would have worn a lighter color as a young girl. I always tried to wear dark browns, really dark browns, nothing tan, black. When we had to wear all white in church, it was like, no, don't do that to me. That wasn't a good thing for me. So I was jealous of girls like Victoria
Yeah.
because my self esteem was very, 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 very low until I got older, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, Robin, this is real talk, because listen to both of them. Colorism really plays a major role. Their hair was pretty, what the choices they made in their clothes, who
Mhm.
their friends are. So these are all behaviors tied to colorism, Robin.
Definitely. I mean, when you dig into this subject matter, you'll find stories where grandmothers were scrubbing the children with Comet and Ajax, trying to get the darkness off the elbows and the knees. Um, Anything to stay away from looking darker. You find that within our culture. It's just something that we have internalized as a culture. It's a part of our cultural trauma that um, something is wrong with our blackness. It has been demonized. It has been talked down on. You know, they have lifted up the white woman as a standard of beauty. You have movies come out in the early 19th century. Um, oh gosh, what is the name of that movie? Uh, the Birth of a Nation, the original Birth of a Nation, where it was about black men going in and raping and taking advantage of white women. And so having to protect the purity and the beauty of white women. And so we internalize that message as well as a culture, that the closer we can get to that standard of beauty, the more pure and the more accepted we would be.
Keyword, you said accept it, and let's go into that, because this is a topic in the Black community that we don't like to talk about, because it is an uncomfortable conversation for us to even say. Even the things that Vicky and Victoria have said, it's hard to come to terms with that people judged you like that, or the things you felt just because you were light skinned or dark skinned. But even when we look at the fraternities and sororities, let's say sororities, we're all women here. Okay, Victoria is a light skinned woman. She's an AKA. She's an Alpha Kappa Alpha. I'm a Delta. Deltas were more brown skinned. We know that, back in the day, if you didn't pass that paper bag test, that brown paper bag, you weren't allowed to be in a Black sorority.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And it's all about fitting into society and trying to be treated well in society. That division that was created to where we would keep our darker skinned children inside so they wouldn't get darker out in the summertime. Anything to make us more accepted. I remember when we were young, and my grandmother, we were running around the store acting silly, and my grandmother snatched us up and she said, "Stop acting like N words."
Mm.
Now, mind you, at the time, there's white kids running around the store, nothing, but it was very much a stress to not act like a certain thing or to appear like this negative stereotype perception that was portrayed onto us, in order to be accepted into society.
Well, Victoria, let's talk a little bit more about, coming from your own family. Okay, talking about the family pain that you felt, people thinking that you thought you were better than them, your skin is lighter, the hair, how did you process that pain?
I mean, I stayed away. I stayed away as much as possible because I didn't feel welcome. Because like I said, I was offended by the fact that, all these years that, I was married to my husband, nobody really took the time to get to know me. And then when I finally took that time to sit down and have a conversation, this is what I'm, told. And if I get it right, she may have said, we thought you were all that, but I was offended. I was seriously offended. So I just pretty much kind of distanced myself because then I felt a certain kind of way every time I would go around them. So that's what I did. In my own personal family, I have a darker skinned sister. Kind of find out we have two different fathers. She used to say different little things, but nothing that was like that. But, it was like a joking kind of thing, and I'm hoping it didn't mean what we're talking about. But she used to tell me that my mother found me on the doorstep and wanted to keep me. I'm like, I didn't understand what that meant. And I'm hoping that that's not what she was thinking unconsciously because of the color of her skin. But yeah, but as far as the in-laws, I stayed away from them. And I still to this day pretty much stay away from them.
Vicky, how did colorism play a role in even though your mother tried not to have it mess with your self-esteem, even when it came to romantic relationships, men, how did you feel about yourself as a woman, as a beautiful Black woman? What was that journey to get you to believe you are a beautiful Black woman? What was that like?
The journey. There was a lady, I wish I knew her name. I don't even know where she came from. She was just on our street and she was there to visit. And she spoke to me, and I had to be about 7 or 8. And she told me, "You are beautiful." She had a low cut, she had a gap. I remember her face, but I never got her name. And she spoke into my life and told me how beautiful I was. And I didn't take it right then, but as I got older, I embraced my color. I embraced the fact that my dark skin is beautiful. And then I started, this probably wasn't right, but I started looking at the lighter skinned women or even the Caucasian women and say, well, they go tanning because they want to become my color, at least. That really helped me boost my esteem. As far as dating and romance, I stayed away from the light skinned guys. To this day, I'm married to a chocolate man my color. I just never really. I had one, and I didn't like it. He treated me like like, oh, you're a dark skinned girl. You should be happy that I'm with you.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
from that, I never was attracted to lighter men because I said
Isn't
I
that
didn't want to be treated that way.
because you didn't want to subject yourself to a rejection? Because once
Right.
again, that color, and again, we're saying this is all within the African American community. I remember in even doing what I'm doing today, I started out, I worked at Black Entertainment Television, a Black cable network owned by a Black man working with majority Black people. And I hid behind the scenes for so long because I didn't see anyone who was my shade of Black on the network. And there used to be a joke that they would say BET stood for beige entertainment because the women were all fair skin and long hair. So here I am with my brown skin, my short cut, nothing against it, but I wanted to keep my natural hair. I wasn't getting a weave. I'm not bleaching my skin. And even that had me hiding longer behind the scenes because I was fearful that I can't go to be in front of the camera because I don't see a Black woman that looks like Black me. And so in the media, Robin, when we look at media images and what seems to be acceptable, even with what I do every day. I'm glad now that I'm starting to see Black women anchors and reporters with their natural hair, their twisties. Joy Reid, you know, at MSNBC, just got a big time anchor position job there in the evenings with her natural hair, her twists and her braids. But let me tell you, there was a time where you didn't see that. And so I felt like myself that I would not be accepted. So I didn't even try. But then here comes the Lupita Nyong'os of the world, okay? So let's talk about that. Lupita Nyong'o comes, 12 Years a Slave, and oh, now, instead of the Halle Berry beautiful, now we have, look at Lupita. Her dark skin is beautiful, and she's getting commercials, okay, with beauty products. How did that impact, hopefully, a shift in our community and how we view our light-skinned, dark-skinned people?
I would hope that it shifted it in a positive way. I know that it was trendy, you know, and that's the problem we have today is things are trendy, but then our messages still remain. I hear a lot in the younger people's music. There's still a lot of light-skinned girl, dark-skinned girl stuff, even in their music. It's not so much with the men. Where's derogatory, but you hear it a lot towards the women, and it's unfortunate that we still have this standard of beauty being put forth. But I love what Black Panther did for the acceptance of Blackness. But at the same time, we then had the Nina Simone movie come out where they preferred to get a light-skinned woman play her and put dark paint on her face, as opposed to going and getting a dark-skinned actress who could have properly portrayed the spirit of Nina Simone. So we still have a long way to go when it comes to media in Hollywood and the images that we put out there.
Vicki and Victoria, have you ever felt that your shade of Black was a disadvantage, or have you ever used your color as an advantage, your shade as an advantage in acquiring something or achieving something?
I'm going to say for me, I mean, I never use my color as an advantage. As far as a disadvantage, I think I had one principal that had an issue with the tone of my skin. And I say that because she used to say some of the same things. You think you're better than everybody here. And my evaluations used to always be impeccable, but the evaluation from her was not quite so good. But I mean, sadly to say, that's the only thing that I can really complain about as far as a disadvantage.
Vicki?
For me, I've used it. I don't know. I wouldn't say I use it for a disadvantage or advantage. I've just grown to loving my skin color, the body that I'm in. I've grown to love it, and I had a job interview. The last job I had, they didn't want to hire me because of the color of my skin, but the HR manager was a friend of mine, and so she reminded them of the discrimination that they could not take. The other lady that interviewed, she did not qualify at all. I was basically, I would say, overqualified, but they didn't want to give me a chance. And so ended up being that they did give me a chance, and they treated me as if, oh, we just picked you because of. But I love the color of my skin. I wear bright colors. I wear this red lipstick. I wear pink lipstick. It's thick, and I'm just who I am. Either you like me or you don't. But I've learned to speak up for myself. I used to be really quiet and okay, all right, you don't want to deal with me. I see it, but now I think, well, maybe it is. Maybe I make myself more boisterous, push my way through, because it's like I don't care. I'm dark. I'm cute, and I'm all that. So deal with it.
And I know it. But I gotta ask, we're all women, and this was intentional that I had all women. The comments, the negative comments, even some of the scarring that happens with people around colorism. Do you find it comes more from women against women? Is it more women that are like that more so than we get from men? Anybody jump in on this one?
I mean, for me, as far as my family that I was talking about, the males in my family would always say to me, Vic, they're just jealous of you. I don't want anybody jealous of me, but I find that all the hair pulling, of course, all that, the comments were almost always women.
Vicky?
This is what I always get. You're pretty to be a dark girl.
Wow.
You're pretty to be a dark woman. And so that's really offensive to me to this day. And so I always respond. So, I mean, do you understand what you just said to me? To be dark. So when I see another dark woman, I always try to take a picture with her because I just feeling her, or dark girl. I never say you're pretty to be dark. You are beautiful, and I'm trying to always speak into them because I'm always thinking about how I was as a kid, how it really affected me as a kid or whatever. But I always get that to this day. You're pretty to be dark. I don't understand what you mean.
Because I'm just pretty, period. That's what it should be, a hashtag. I'm pretty, period. Robin, you are the therapist here, the licensed one. Tell us, what are some of the issues, the results of colorism? What are some issues that can result in a person's life? Give it some terms and some names, the damage that is done by colorism.
It's definitely, it definitely has an impact on self-esteem. It causes people to try to get acceptance, but, overachieving and overcompensating. You see it a lot. And to your statement about, is it more women than men? I think it's passed down through the maternal line on what we consider to be beauty, and so or beautiful. So we have this perception of women based on what we've been taught over the generations, whether this is a good woman or a pretty woman or a docile woman or a loud woman, and you'll see it coming from different angles. Guys talk about red bone women or dark skin women. You have these portrayals, but it's passed down as women. We teach our daughters how to perceive ourselves as women.
Now, wait, Robin, I want you to define for some of our listeners who may not know. You said a red bone woman. What is a red bone woman?
It'll vary from person to person, but usually it's the yellower skin, light skinned women, from what I understand. Now, but I've also learned that we all perceive what's light and dark differently. I have a friend in my life, who swears I am almost white. And I'm like, I thought I had a little brown in my skin, but because of his perception of light and dark skin, I'm almost white. I had when I was in high school, I had a girl come to me because she just knew I was biracial. She asked me about being biracial growing up. Back in the day, I used to have all this long, wild hair. But I always thought my tone was more, olivey but in her perception, because she was very darker skinned, I didn't take offense to it. I just found it surprising that was the assumption that she had from her worldview, that anyone lighter than her must be biracial. So, we have to understand that we perceive it all differently as what is dark and what is light based on our experiences. And then we pass that on. So I have had 60-year-old women in my office who have depression and self-esteem issues. And after going through their life, I asked them, so tell me about your family dynamic. Was there any lighter skin, darker skin? And I'll find out that either they were the light-skinned child or they were the dark-skinned child. And that has been part of their self-esteem and depression issues.
Let's talk about girls, young girls. I'm very passionate about empowering young girls. Vicky and Victoria know this. How can we empower our young girls so that at 60, they're not sitting in someone's office, damaged by something that's happening? Because, our work that we do with my Shine Girls mentoring group, we hear it all the time. Not just is light skin, dark skin, it's body shaming, too fat, too skinny. So, Vicky and Victoria, what advice would you give to that parent? Both of you are parents, in helping your children, be it a young boy or a young girl, in dealing with colorism?
I would say like she said, it starts at home. Speaking life into your children. I speak life into all of my children. I let them know how beautiful they are. And beauty doesn't always start from the outside, it's on the inside. And so I always tell my children, You're beautiful from the inside out. And I always speak like I have a daughter. You guys know Gabby. She had braces. She wears glasses. She's very slender. She's not tall, but I speak into her life. So now you can't tell Gabby nothing because I'm speaking. Her father and I are the first ones that minister to her, and we speak life into all of our children. I said that's where it starts, and if like my mother did with me, so I couldn't go but so far because she spoke into me and she made sure I looked good. But it was just the outside kids. But I always tell my children, if your heart is beautiful, you're beautiful, and I'm gonna make sure that you look good, on the outside, but just make sure you do the work on the inside to make sure that you're beautiful and you have great intentions. I think that's where it starts.
Victoria?
Yeah, it's so ironic because as I was preparing for this, my granddaughter's visiting from Hampton, and she's happens to be a dark-skinned young woman. And I asked her, I said, is this thing taking place now with colorism amongst your peers? And she said, absolutely. And I said, well, how do you deal with this? She says, I don't care because I know who I am. And that would have been the same advice that I would give her. Just always know who you are. Know what you're going to offer into this life. Know that you're a dynamite young woman. And she's so solid with it. I'm like, gosh, I wish I was like that at 22. So I think that I would, I'm going to just kind of get in there and talk to her more. So if I have to really address this with another young woman, I would know what to say to her, because I don't have a daughter. And even though I dealt with students over the years, I never really had to deal with that.
Yeah. One thing I do, and I consider it a personal thing in the field that I am in, because I know, as I said, when I was growing up wanting to do what I do, I didn't see a lot of women that looked like me. And most of the women who were doing what I do today, they were light skin and long hair. It is my own personal thing. I just like to keep my natural hair short because I just happen to like short hair and I think I'm attractive. But I tell you, it means the world to me when I meet a little girl, a young girl who says, I like you. You look like me. You're brown skin. Her hair may be short. I give them hope that they too can do it if they put their mind to it. And it's not going to be about any of this, that it's about here and what's in here, So I think we also have a responsibility to maintain that. I think if you're a light-skinned woman, sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes I think the pressure on light-skinned women is sometimes they feel like they got to prove they're black. Like I got to prove my blackness to you because my hair has that European, it's fine. If I jump in the pool, my hair is not going to shrivel up, like mine will. And sometimes I run into light-skinned women, Robin, that really feel like, I got to prove that I'm just as black, whether they go into black studies, whether they are, it seems like sometimes there's an overcompensation almost. I feel sometimes when I meet light-skinned women.
Yeah, because of the rejection within the community.
Yeah.
We, in as a defense mechanism that we've created, we now, instead of being the rejected ones, we will reject others. And
wow.
So you see that happening. I have a friend of mine, she's biracial, and she grew up with that same rejection. And I still see her being timid as far as engaging Black women because she's never felt welcome. And so we see that happen where, at one point we're rejecting all the darker skin. And so then in retaliation, like I said, as a defense mechanism, it isn't so much out of an evil spirit, but it's a protection of self. Now we're rejecting the lighter skin. And so we have to get into this place of breaking down those walls and accepting all of us, because we're all part of the same community. We're all representations of beauty in our own right. And like you said, as far as what can we do as far as teaching the young girls, teaching them to see more about themselves beyond just the physical outer appearance. I do this activity with adults too. I do this activity called Mirror Mirror on the Wall, where I have them take out their selfie camera and look at it and tell me, what do you see? List me 5 to 10 things that you see. And usually people will say, I got this bump on my forehead. I see my hair and I see, it takes a while. Okay, now do it again and look deeper. What do you see? A lot of times we put our identity all into our outer appearance and not realize that is just a piece of who we are. not a total of who we are.
And as we get ready to close this out, this has been it's so good. I'm loving this. We could talk for a whole hour on our different situations. But I would like for Vicki and Victoria just to give us, how would you describe colorism and its impact as we close, what it has had on your life, but then now how you are today. Okay, so kind of give us how you flip the script and how you live today, and what is your, what do you feel responsible to do, as a light-skinned woman, as a dark-skinned Black woman? What do you feel your responsibility is in regards to this issue?
Well, like I said before earlier, I didn't know what colorism was. I didn't know that the things that were said to me that seemed to slight who I am, and not knowing who I really am. I would think that for me, when I found out what colorism was, I realized that this was not about me, that it was about the other person. I know that Vicki had mentioned about how some lighter skinned women want to tan. I used to always try and tan. I was so busy trying to change. I was so busy. But now, because I know what colorism is, because I know getting prepared for this, I feel so free. I feel so free knowing that. My son told me, Mom, what people say and think about you is none of your business. It's how you react. It's all about your business. And so I think that, I like the activity that Karen had people doing with the mirror, because I would tell people to do the same thing, because I am the first to see the negative and not the positive. And I know that when you affirm yourself, those are the things that you have to really concentrate on, is affirming the good things in you, because whatever you say about yourself will come true. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to move on forward from this, but I know that I'm going to use my own lesson of feeling free now. It would be something that I would help other young ladies with. I can honestly say that I never saw skin tone. And I know that sounds crazy, or maybe it's easier for me not to see it because I'm a light-skinned woman. Now I pay a little bit more attention to it, and I understand the hurts of the darker-skinned woman.
Vicki.
As for me, moving forward, starting back from when I was a kid, I would say I was 14. It was my Easter suit. I made sure it was lime green. It was lime green. I had a lime green shoes to match, and that was my breakthrough. I wore that, and I got so many compliments, and I said, wow, this really does look good. But I was still shy of wearing the different color lipsticks until Pastor Sattler's wife, Kim Sattler, I saw her, and I said, wow, she's dark, she's beautiful, she's wearing red lipstick. That really pushed me to doing different things in regards to wearing different color lipsticks. You guys will see me with short hair today and long hair tomorrow. I'm just me, and I think my responsibility going forward, and even just before now, has been to show young ladies of all colors, you're beautiful, regardless to what people say about you is what you believe about yourself. So I feel like just speaking into young women's lives, I have a heart for young girls. And it's like I feel their hurt before I even can sit down and talk to them. So I'm usually speaking into their lives before they can open up their mouth to tell me what's really going on. And I feel like that's just my responsibility, to speak positivity into their lives, affirm them, to let them know, no matter what it looks like or no matter what it feels like, you're beautiful, and no one can take that away from you. And that's something that you've got to know for yourself.
Robin.
Oh wow, what else is there to say? These ladies wrapped it up really good as far as the power in affirming. We need to bring that sense of community back together and recognize that some of this pain is very deep rooted. So it's not a matter of, girl, don't get over it. Just, you beautiful, get over it. It's more than that. It's very deep rooted. It's in dealing with acceptance, rejection, self-esteem. And so we have to come together as a community to help build our young ladies and young men back up so that they know who they are and not be shrinking within themselves because of the color of their skin.
Well, I want to thank Robin C. Hill, Victoria L. Davis, Vicki Hubbard Barnes. I can't thank you enough for your honesty, for your authentic expression today as we threw shade on colorism. And I hope that all of you that are listening, those of you who are watching, I hope if you had any of these struggles that we talked about today, that now you are empowered and that you have been affirmed that my complexion has nothing to do with my behavior. That's more about what I do up here and not what's right here. So, colorism exists. It has not gone away. As you heard, it is deep rooted, but we can change if we all take the responsibility to plant the seeds of positivity and natural beauty into the young minds that we are attached to. And hopefully one day the shift will occur and it will stay, and we will all see our shades as beautiful colors under the sun. So you've been listening to Voices for Change. I'm your host, Danita Harris. Until the next time, take care.